you are. I ask myself, is this shit real? I contemplate about how I.
Hello everybody, I am Shango.
And I'm Malika. And this is the Marriage Cave. Yes.
Yes.
Be sure if you like the video to click that like button. Also hit the notification bell to see when we have new videos. And let's get into it. So today we're going to be talking about trauma. First and foremost, always remember before you enter a relationship that it's not the other person's job to heal your trauma.
However, you can work through it together through time.
A lot of people, they may think that they don't have any trauma. But actually, a lot of your trauma might not even come out until you get with another person. You know what I mean? Your trauma a lot of times is deep rooted in the subconscious mind. It's something that many of us blocked out. However, there also are those of us that are fully aware of the trauma and the baggage that we bring. For example, there was this one girl, a young woman actually, and she was receiving counseling. She noticed that she had abandonment issues. Her father left. She never had like a stable father figure in her house. And her mom had a revolving door of boyfriends. She went to the therapist and she said, you know what, I don't know why all these men keep leaving me. Every time they get with me, they leave. And I already have abandonment issues and this is not helping. I'm repeating this generational curse, right, that I have in my family. So at that moment, the therapist that she was seeing, he started to change his body language. He started to change his facial expressions. And he made her very uncomfortable to the point where she said, okay, I was about to leave the room at this point. I'm very uncomfortable. He said, do you know what I was doing? And she said, no, I don't know what you were doing. He said, I'm mirroring your body language back to you. Your body language is standoffish, detached, cold. And she was like, wow. She would have never paid attention unless someone mirrored it back to her. So she found out that in her subconscious mind, she already felt like, okay, men are trash, they're going to abandon me, nobody's ever staying with me, and so it becomes, so she starts exhibiting these behaviors. They found that was formed in her childhood. She had, her mom had a bunch of drunk boyfriends around her, and her subconscious mind was protecting her from those men, and so the mind is a powerful thing.
I find that it usually pops up in your late to early 30s. Like you see the celebrities, child stars, they grew up and they're older and they're a little bit nuts. It's like, yeah.
20s, huh?
I say late 20s to early 30s.
Yeah.
So.
Your subconscious mind holds so much, and a lot of times it starts to show itself around that time, because when you get traumatized and then re-traumatized, a lot of times that starts to build and then it starts to boil over. So a lot of times a person can seem really great when they're in their teens and different things like that, but a lot of times things don't pop up until later. That's why nowadays it's more common to get married at least mid-20s to late 20s as opposed to your early adulthood, if you want to make it last. With our subconscious mind, a lot of times we do things with it that we're not aware of.
Very powerful. It's good that she did go to therapy, because I believe the average person wouldn't know how to deal with that. They wouldn't be trained to know, even explain that to her if they were looking at that. Most of the time they're just going to leave it to other people. So the therapist can show you yourself outside yourself. They're trained to do it. And that's the good thing about dealing with people. They can show you things that you can't see yourself.
I use journaling and shadow work. Shadow work is kind of like a reflection of different things and why it makes you feel the way it makes you feel. Like, all right, so we first got together, right? And so problems on the surface may look like, oh, well, this person, I couldn't keep the house clean, okay? Like, that was kind of my thing. And of course, he liked a very clean home. I mean, who doesn't? And I found through shadow work and also a support group, an online support group, that a lot of my trauma was rooted in being yelled at all the time, clean house, you know what I mean? Coming up. And so it was that, and it was some other issues. It manifested in me wanting to hold on to everything, or me not wanting to fix certain things. And so I had to work through that, and I found some tips to do that. But it helped that you didn't just come down on me and just be like, oh, you're just nasty.
Oh no, you gotta have patience with people, the same as you want for yourself. Right. Everybody reflects on their own issues. That's very important. I have my own issues too. With anger based on my environment. And I had to work through that, and she was patient with me, and that's the big deal, because some people would see certain things and right away and you leave. It's like, well, hey, if you give them time, they can work through it.
Yeah, a lot of time you could work through it together. I mean, as I said in the beginning of the video, it's not the other person's job to heal your trauma. You have to do that work within. And again, for me, it was journaling, shadow work. For the young woman I mentioned, it was therapy.
And all three are valuable.
How about for you? What was it that helped you?
For me, books, finding techniques of triggers, meditation, grounding techniques, getting a rubber band or focusing on something on the wall, paying attention to things around the room.
What was the rubber band thing?
You put a rubber band on your hand, pop it if you're in a bad thought or something like that to kind of zone you in.
I found that to be really effective. I remember seeing the rubber band around you.
Yeah, and that's just research. You can do your own self-research. Look up things and see, hey, what can I do as well? And I found that technique. So there's different techniques you can do on your own too. And of course, therapy will show you that, but you can find it on your own as well.
No, I feel like people are just so quick to leave the other person because they feel like, okay, well, I have my own shit to deal with. I don't feel like dealing with yours. And I'm like, don't do that, because at the end of the day, I feel like this life journey has been so much better the past 8 years that we were working through this together. We got to see each other's vulnerabilities and each other's flaws and love each other through it.
And watch each other grow together. Watch the growth. You see, this is the outcome of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Life partner.
Yeah.
And it won't be easy because, they say watch the car at once.
Yeah.
Because somebody might have had a few holes in the walls.
Okay, that happened. So disclaimer, I didn't never hit my wife or never my kids. But there was times where expressing anger where I didn't know how to handle things and it expressed it that way. And there's things you do have to look at. Communication is important. We share the pain. We open up for yourself.
Yeah, the saying goes, it's like, you make me so angry. And she said back to him, no, I expose your anger.
Yeah.
A lot of times, we already have triggers when we come into a relationship to where that person might aggravate that trigger. And instead of, calling it and knowing that trigger was already within, you looking at the other person and it's like, well, it's you that made me feel this way. I have to get rid of you. And really, you're still left with those triggers. You know what I mean? I feel like just staying single and saying, well, I'm just going to stay out of a relationship, I think that is really running away from your lessons. There was another young woman in our group. She had said that she had sexual abuse when she was a child. What happened was, she met this really great guy. They're in a serious relationship. It's been 10 months thus far, but she can't bring herself to have sex with him. Other people in the group was commenting what they thought that she should do. And a lot of people were like, look, you shouldn't be in a relationship. You have this trauma, so why are you even in this relationship? And both of us, didn't agree with that. Because I'm sitting here do you know how hard it is to find someone patient enough to wait with you and work with you through your trauma? She found that person. He wasn't pressuring her for sex, but she wanted to have that experience with him. It's just she was still working on her trauma. Definitely see a professional. And what we're saying here is not to substitute for professional help. But if someone is willing to hold your hand through it, they don't have to be a therapist, okay?
No.
But if they're willing to work with you through your emotions and your triggers, because a lot of times in therapy they will give you homework or things to read or things like that.
Techniques, like I said, and I did my own.
Yeah, and a lot of times you can work with that other person. And so, no, I did not advise this person to just leave this relationship and go work on their trauma because newsflash, we're going to always be working on our trauma the rest of our lives, whether you're single or whether you're married. And a lot of times, to be honest with you, when you have a second set of eyes on you're able to see things about the way that I think and about me that I really wasn't able to see myself.
That's the point. When you're with another person, a reflection, they can see that you can't. And like I said, when you're with somebody long enough, the mask comes off. You just can't hide a lot. And that's the beauty of it, because you don't want to hide. You want people to see it, your flaws, so you can grow. And be able to communicate. We communicated a lot of our past, our issues, our hopes, fears. And if you can really communicate that and really be open enough, it can work. Now, you need to make sure it's the right person. You don't want nobody to hurt you, take that information usually against you. And I think there's ways to vet that out. Obviously you use common sense. However, it's nothing to run away from. You can't run away from people. Be open for that, because it can work.
And if you share your scars with someone and they run for the hills, then wish them good luck, because that wasn't the person for you. The person that's for you is going to work with you. I'm not saying heal you. I'm not saying you're not going to get married in a serious relationship and all your trauma and pain is just going to go away. That's not how it works. However, when you care about somebody and you love each other, you will work together on it. The entire relationship is not about just healing trauma. You're having children, you're building a family, you're combining finances, you're making a life together. That definitely comes with it. When you get married and you enter the union, their debt becomes your debt, their past becomes your past, and
the pain,
the demons or whatever.
Is gonna take on because they're living together. And she wake up in the middle of the night, somebody with a nightmare is like, okay, I'm here to see what's up. The joke, but yeah, and so you share that, you share the pain.
Yeah. That's the key. It's that open communication and just being able to be yourself around that person. And this should go without saying. Never ever ever use that as an opportunity to throw someone's trauma in their face.
No, that's not good. Because like I said in another video, is that you know a lot about them that can cut really deep. And that's no way you're coming back a lot of times from that. That's really hard to come over when you use that trauma against them. It cuts like a sword. Very painful.
You have to be able to control your tongue. Yeah. And also, a lot of stuff like what we share, a lot of things that we share, some certain things he knows about me, absolutely nobody knows. Nobody on this planet. You know, if you want a good union, I'll keep your secret.
I won't tell your secrets.
Yeah, because likewise, you know so much about me that nobody knows. It's like, that's the thing. And it's the thing with family, when you know things about the other person, I'd say watch that, you know, outside, because you want to have a trust with the person relationship, and the other people in the family, they just sometimes wouldn't understand because they don't have that same, you know, that same love as you have a lot of times, you know. So you just be careful when sharing with that. I'm not talking about abuse and all that, of course. I'm talking about just that they have issues, different things they're working on. You just don't want to just blast that out. Be very protective.
I mean, we never just, you know, completely dumped on each other. There's some things that we didn't know about each other until, you know, maybe a year or two in.
You give it time, yeah. It has to take time. Nobody just be dumping right away. That's a little different, you know?
And certain things pop up. I'll give you an example. This is one couple that we were talking to, and they're not a couple anymore. But what happened was she was painting her daughter's room, so he wanted to spend time with her. And so he sends her a text message that says, hey, you know, can we spend some time? And she says, well, I'm painting my daughter's room. If you want to spend time, come help me paint. So he said something sexual. He says, well, I'm not a handyman except, you know, in the bed or something, you know, like that. He told her. Of course, she was offended. Like, all right, so you don't want to help me paint my daughter's room. You just said something sexual. But when he found out that she was upset by that, he went ahead and shared some of his trauma. He said, listen, I used to do handiwork with my dad. And whenever I would get something wrong, well, he would smack me, you know, he would hit me. And so now he doesn't do any handiwork. He just pays somebody to do it because, you know, it reminds him of that bad childhood experience. And sister blocked him.
Yeah, she did. And I think it's okay if people can't deal, because you don't want nobody that's just not going to be there for that. You want somebody that actually wants to, like, all right, cool, I'll work with you. But I think that is an opportunity where the guy could have been really great. He paid somebody that's just saying, don't discard them for that type of pain, especially if they opened up. That means in certain user sections they're willing to open up. It's like, all right, you can work with that. They're willing to let you know, hey, this is why. I don't mean no offense. And it's like, all right, look, I understand. And we could just talk about it or different things. You don't have to be a therapist, but it's like it's not always the time to just discard.
You know, and not discard her either, because I will say this: people make their choices, and their choices are their choices. You don't know what her reason was for not wanting to deal with it. But I will say this: everybody knows what they can and can't take. Like we mentioned, you know, me with, you know, the housework, him with the holes in the wall.
Some women definitely, you know, take that.
Yeah, I've heard other women say like, oh, when he punches the wall, that means he's gonna punch you. And he's never punched me, like,
no,
you know what I mean?
Never did.
But some people are like, they may be triggered by that to the point where they're like, I have to go.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they're wrong. It's like when you find what you can and can't take. We always say that with each other. It's like there's certain things that people tell me about their spouse, you know, about their husband, and I'm like, I couldn't put up with that. You know what I mean?
And likewise with me. I see some wives that's doing things, I'm like, oh no, that's not for me.
But there are things that you can put up with. So you know, you have to know yourself enough to know this is what I'm willing to handle. And the more you care for the person, you will make exceptions. But I always say, consider yourself, because there might be some trauma you have.
We all have it.
You know, that you didn't know.
We all have some kind of trauma. It just happens. As always, I am Shango.
And I'm Malika.
And we are out.
Peace.
Peace.